Welcome to the Vindicator Liberty County Football Preview Show. I'm Ross Norwood. To my left, Jerry Mahosky. To my right, Russell Payne. We're going to take you through all the schools in Liberty County and their outlook on this year's football season. We're going to start with Liberty, the Liberty Panthers, and Russell Payne.
All right. Well, Ross, Jerry, it's good to be here for another season, and we're going to take a look back at what Liberty did in 2023 under former coach Chris Lackey, who was out after 2 seasons. The record for the Liberty Panthers was a 2-8 season, repeating the same record from the year previous. 2-4 in district play, with, of course, 4 of the toughest teams you could possibly imagine in that district, and, well, they all 4 beat Liberty. That's Jasper, West Orange Stark, Silsbee, and Hampshire Finette. That's right. And so, but unfortunately for Liberty, they will not be in that district again going forward. They did come in 5th place last season, state ranking of 716 for the Liberty Panthers in the state of Texas. They gave up 381 points on the season for 38.1 points per game, scored 146 points per game for an average of 14.6 points per game for the Liberty. They gave up 146 points for the season, or scored 146 points for the season. In district, they scored 65 points for an average of 10.8 per game, and they allowed 253 points for an average of 42.2 points per game. And of course, those points came again from that big 4, Jasper, Silsbee, Hampshire Finette, and West Orange Stark. But that's what we have for 2003, but 2024, there's a new guy in charge, and Jerry, I think you have that information for us.
Yes, his name is Kedrick Harrison, and we call him Ked. And just a great guy, great guy. And there's different environment, talking to players, other coaches, there's a new energy, at the Liberty, at the practice field, covering them last Thursday against Anahuac. And Liberty played very well. Of course, we don't keep score in scrimmages, but it was 3 touchdowns to 1 for the Liberty Panthers. And they looked very good. Their quarterback is back, Frankie Moraz, and Frankie looked very good in the scrimmage, running and throwing the football. Luke Porche had some very nice runs in the scrimmage. Jason Wycliffe, remember that name. Jason's a 2-way player. You definitely know him on the basketball court. And Jason made a name for himself last year. As a junior for the Panthers, transferred from Atascocita, and this will be a big year for him. I can tell you that much right now. Seth Kirkland is up front leading the line. Liberty's line is going to be a lot more improved this year. They ran the football, like I said, pretty well against Anahuac last Thursday. And I like the Panthers. They're in a district with Bridge City, Harden Jefferson, Huffman, Little Cypress, Mauriceville, the Livingston Lions, Lumberton, and Vidor. And guys, there's a real shot that Liberty has got a chance of getting one of those 4 spots in the playoffs. And based on their performance last Thursday, if they carry that over into the season, the start of the season, the sky's the limit. Of course, got to avoid injuries. It seems like everybody in Liberty County is a little short on depth this year, but I'm telling you, I think Liberty, with Coach Ked leading the way, they've got some good senior leadership, a positive outlook. They will start the season off against Cold Spring at Memorial Stadium next Friday night. And if Liberty can have a good non-district, get a couple of wins under their belt, which is something they have not been able to do the last couple of years, the sky's the limit for these guys.
When you've been to practices, what is something that stands out to you that's different this year versus the last few years?
The coaching is a little more toned down, I guess, and the players seem to be a lot more receptive of what the coaches are trying to tell them to do.
Liberty electing, of course, to elevate to the next level up to Division I from Division II. And that was all really in an effort to escape Silsbee, Jasper, and West Orange Stark.
Yeah, but don't get anything wrong, Ross. And as Coach Ked and I both talked about this a couple weeks ago, 10-4A Division I is still a tough district. The Vider Pirates can go on a quarter drive. They can put together a 14, 15-play drive and just wear your defense out. Little Cypress Mauriceville, Eric Peavy, who led Beaumont Westbrook to a state championship, if we all remember that a few years ago. Eric is there. Lumberton is always tough. And the Livingston Lions coming off a playoff appearance last year. The biggest surprise in that district was the Huffman Falcons going 1-9 last year. Make no mistake, Huffman will not go 1-9 again with all the starters they're bringing back.
And Liberty is bringing back quite a few starters.
Yes, they are. They are bringing 15 starters back, 7 on the offensive side of the ball and 8 on defense.
All righty. Well, that is a look at the Liberty Panthers outlook on 2024. Next up, we will talk about Dayton. We've covered Liberty. Now we'll turn our attention to the Dayton Broncos. Russell, I think you have some information about their season last year.
Absolutely. Last year, the Dayton Broncos, a disappointing year after a playoff appearance where they had broke a playoff drought 2 seasons ago. Blake Ware back again for another season. Blake Ware is gone. And he left late last year for MacArthur, and I think Jerry will have a little bit of information on his replacement, who in some ways probably has a pedigree that's a little bit of an upgrade. But nonetheless, the Broncos last year under Denham Foster and company, 4-6 on the season, 2-3 in district. Just very disappointing 5th place finish for the Broncos. Their state ranking was 423rd last year. Points scored on the season, 299 for the whole year, with 29.9 per game. And points allowed last year were 337 for 33.7 points per game. In district, the Broncos were able to score 190 points for the season with 38 a game. And they gave up 254 of those 299 points in district play for an average of 15.8 points per game. That's a lot of bad defense, is what that is.
Looking back at last season, Russell, and you saw it firsthand, what was the problem? Why did they go backwards last year?
That's a good question, because they certainly had a more talented quarterback last year, who will return this year. He will not be the quarterback this season, but returns as a superstar athlete. And in fact, he was our Liberty County Player of the Year last year in Denham Foster.
Yes, he was.
And a great young man, and they had some other talent. Things just didn't seem to click with them. It seems like that playoff game against Brenham 2 years ago, things did not click. And then it just, the same thing seemed to happen during the course of last season too. And they took some games on the chin. They lost to Willow Ridge last year. And that right there was something that just...
that's the one game for me, Russell, that just so stands out.
Yeah, and it's like, and you just, something, and again, and all the credit in the world to our Vindicator Player of the Year last year in Denham Foster, because I'm not obsessive blame or point blame, but he performed the whole way through,
yes,
right? There were several other players from Dayton that performed. So I don't know, just something didn't mesh, and it never made sense.
Jerry, Russell said that there is a new leader in Dayton. Tell us a little about him.
Yep, Jerry Prito, and we call him Coach P, is in Dayton, and Coach P was at Crosby, led the Cougars to a state championship game, if we remember that, and then also led them to, I believe, a state semifinal.
Yep.
So
2 great years in a row.
Coach P had, and if you remember, Crosby on offense put up some video game numbers. Mm-hmm. So he did a great job at Crosby. Left Crosby, went to Lake Worth for a year, and his son, Jerry Prito Jr., was actually the starting quarterback as a freshman and led Lake Worth to a playoff spot as a freshman. So that right there is speaking volumes of, one, of the job that Coach P did, and then two, his son coming in as a freshman and leading a school to a playoff spot. So he will be playing quarterback. They will be moving Denham Foster to just all over the field, okay? He might be slotted out. He'll be at running back. So Coach P's going to want to get Denham the ball wherever he can in open space and let Denham do what Denham does. Also, another strength for the Broncos is they're going to be their wide receiver core, and Dayton has got some guys that can go catch the football. And Preto Jr. can throw the football. So that right there is a nice combo. How the offensive line gels will be, that'll be the big story because he's going to need time to sit back there and look. And then also for the Dayton running game. I think they need to be balanced on offense because I'm telling you guys, that is a tough district. So we just talked about Liberty being in a tough district. Mm-hmm. Dayton is in there with the returning state champion Port Neches Groves Indians, the Huntsville Hornets, who lost to Port Neches Groves in the regional final in a very close ball game, and then Lake Creek, who lost to Port Neches Groves the round before. Lake Creek started 12-0, and that was also a very close game. All three of those teams are in that district. You got the Montgomery Bears, and they've got a little scatback quarterback that has given Dayton fits since he was a sophomore. He's back for his senior year. Let's also remember the Nederland Bulldogs are coming off a playoff spot last year. Okay? Nederland returns a bunch this year. So that district is, you also have Splendor and West Fork. Splendor just got bumped up to 5A. West Fork, their first year to play varsity football. So the district's going to be very competitive. Every Friday night, you're going to have to bring it. Because if you have an off Friday night, it may not be pretty.
You won't see the postseason.
Yeah. And Dayton's non-district schedule, very tough non-district schedule. The Crosby Cougars happen to come to Bronco Stadium next Friday night to kick the season off. Of course, that's Coach Preto's former school, so I know he'll be excited, and there'll be all kind of electricity in the air for that one because the Highway 90 rivalry has been put on hold the last few years. Well, we're going to renew it again on Friday night, so that should be fun. And then Dayton also plays Kingwood Park, who was a playoff team last year, and the Porter Spartans. So the non-district schedule will not be easy. That will help them getting ready for what is going to be a very tough district. If Dayton can get off to a quick start, stay injury-free, get in district, who knows what can happen.
And so injuries, offensive line, and running game going to be the big factors in the success of the Dayton Broncos this year.
I think so, because I think they are going to pass the football, and they're going to have some success throwing the football because Preto Jr. can throw it, and they have some receivers that can go and get it.
Russell, your thoughts on Dayton's upcoming season?
It could be a big year. Jerry said you've got some great wide receivers. You've got Denham Foster, who's going to be great wherever he is on the field. Mm-hmm. Jerry Preto's son, Jerry Jr., from all indications, is going to be a big star for Dayton going forward. And again, I go to the pedigree of this coach. That, he's done some winning in his career, and he's bringing that to Dayton. And I might throw this in there real quick. His stop last year was at Lake Worth High School, and y'all may not realize this, but Lake Worth High School's basketball team is coached by a former Dayton Bronco great, Randy Denman, and so he's there at Lake Worth, and just a kind of a note of interest. But anyway,
looks to be an exciting year for the Dayton Broncos. We're going to move forward in our Vindicator preview show, and we are going next to Harden. Russell, tell us a little about the Hornets.
The Harden Hornets. Let me tell you, the Harden Hornets might have been one of the better losing teams in the area last season. They started out pretty hot, 3-0 under Coach Chad Taylor. You may be familiar with Chad Taylor. He's been around a few schools here, and he'll be back for his second season in a row, and that's actually will be the most stable Harden has been coaching-wise quite some time. And I think you're going to hear that about several of our schools tonight. But that 2 years under Taylor, where he put in a spring and then a summer, and that's going to be very helpful for Harden. Last year, though, that 3-7 record they had started on a downward spiral after a controversial loss at home that was a bad call. Period. There is no way that Tarkington was able to beat Harden, and Tarkington stayed in the playoff hunt until the very end. But and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I know Harden is looking forward to paying a little trip to Tarkington and getting that victory back. So district record 0-6 last year, but they put up competitive games against Anahuac and Kirbyville, and they were in the mix, and they gave you some excitement, which was not there before in the last few years.
I'll say when the week they played Kirbyville, Liberty was off, and I was at that game, and what an exciting game. Kirbyville was thought to come in and just pound them.
Yeah.
And it ended up going into overtime.
Yeah.
And there were some great catches in that game by wide receivers for Harden.
And let's not forget, Kirbyville won that district last year, and Harden had Kirbyville on the ropes.
They did. So last year in that run, they came in 7th in the district, unfortunately, for the Harden. Again, I emphasize this. One of the better losing teams I've seen in a long time, and one of the more for Harden in the last several years, as I've covered them for the last several years, they didn't give up.
They were very competitive.
They were
very competitive.
They didn't give up, and that was something you did not see for a couple of seasons previous to that. They ranked last year 921st in the state of Texas. Points scored last year were 162 on the season for 16.2 a game. They only gave up 21.3 points per game. So their defense was there, and I think that defense is going to be anchored by linebackers again this season that give them some hope on that side of the ball. In district, that was district points. So the points allowed 213, 21.3 per game. So that's a good deal. Points scored last year were unfortunately only 9.7 per game for the Hornets. So anyway, but that's where we are with that. And then Jerry chose Chad Taylor and his linebacker crew that I know he's excited about, and I think he got a pretty good quarterback in Whitehead.
As Russell said, and as Chad Taylor said, the Hornets are going to be led by their defense, and their linebackers very talented. You have Landon Ponton, who is a senior, and Trevor Jones, who is a junior. They will be the heart and soul of that defense. Let's think about this also. Yes, Harden did go 3-7, 0-6 in district, but defensively, Harden allowed 21.3 points a game. That is not bad in high school football, because a lot of time, guys, you'll see high school football scores 40 to 30 something, there's a lot of points usually scored in high school football. Harden played very good defense last year, played Anahuac very tough, trailed Orangefield 13-7 at the half. Orangefield was a playoff team. Mm-hmm. As we talked about, had Kirbyville, the district champion, on the ropes. So Harden played not bad football last year. And I'll allude to it, as Russell said, the Tarkington game was kind of where, after that, things started to spiral downhill.
But before last year, that Tarkington game would have killed that team.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would have been done. And that did not happen. And that was impressive. Again, I've seen them for several years now, covered them. And I'd go back. The last time I saw them put up things like that was about 3 head coaches ago. I think we all know who that was. And it's been a while for the Harden Hornets.
I will say that is something that Chad Taylor coached teams are able to do. He really instills the don't give up. Mm-hmm. And they'll keep fighting no matter how it might look.
Yeah, that's my boy Chad Taylor right there. Chad is, whatever team he coaches, you can go ahead and bet on it. They're going to play a full 48 minutes. Mm-hmm. It does not matter what the score is. Those kids are going to keep fighting, and they keep fighting for Coach Taylor and his coaching staff.
Lots of buy-in in Harden last year under the first-year head coach Chad Taylor. An exciting outlook for 2024 for the Harden Hornets. We are going to move on now to the fourth team we've covered today, and that is the Whole Day Zeta Bobcats.
Bobcats. Let's just start off real quick and wish all of the folks in Bobcat country a happy is the right word, 100th anniversary. Bobcat football has been played for 100 years this season. That's a big deal. The oldest program actually in all of Liberty County in high school football.
Historic Bobcat Stadium.
That's right. And I know they're going to be doing some celebrating this year and everything. And this team will look to build on that legacy. And that legacy last year included a playoff appearance. It's been a while since they've had a playoff win. In fact, Coach Birdwell was on the last team that had a playoff win, and that was 1998. But they're going to see if they can't get some things right this season. And last year, though, let's take a look at their record, which was a playoff record, 4-7 on the year, 2-3 district record. They were able to. It was a smaller district, so they were able to secure a spot. District standing was fourth. Got the last spot in the playoffs for a state ranking of 1,105. Last year, they scored 196 points on the year, 17.8 per game. They gave up 339 points in the year for 30.8 points per game. In district, they did a little bit better scoring-wise and holding opponents to a lower score. They scored 92 points in district, 18.4 per game. They only gave up 27 points per game for 135 points last season. Did Whole Day Zeta and the Bobcats, and I know they are going to have to replace some talent that they lost last year that's transferred out. But they have a couple guys named Smith that I think are ready to do that, and Jerry, I think you got a little bit more.
Yes, sir. And the Smith Russell was talking about, you got Josh and Logan Smith for the Bobcats, and they're going to be counted on a lot this year by head coach Randy Birdwell and the Bobcats. I like Whole Day Zeta to grab one of those spots. They are in a new district, 12-2A Division II, with West Sabine, Deweyville, Evadale, Comasnell, Sabine Pass, and West Harden. I do like the Bobcats getting another playoff spot this year. Injury-free, boy, we keep, but this is crucial for the Bobcats. Whole Day Zeta is really low on numbers this year, and they just have to deal with it. And Coach Birdwell said, hey, we just got to play football. So them staying injury-free, because they got a lot of kids that will be going both ways. They got several kids that probably won't even come off the field. So conditioning, I was over there first day of practice, I believe, and the Bobcats were out there on the field, and they were running and conditioning up and did not look bad. But Whole Day Zeta staying injury-free will be the key for them going to the playoffs.
Always a difficult thing to do in football, but very important when you do have small numbers. That is the Whole Day Zeta Bobcats outlook for this year. Only school in Liberty County last year to make the playoffs.
That's correct. That is correct.
And we wish them luck as well.
And good luck on them for their 100th season of football. Hey, Bobcat fans, let's cap it off, get behind these guys, and let's take them to another playoff spot.
We are now going to turn to Tarkington. And Russell, Tarkington's season last year.
Tarkington had a pretty successful season last year, and we're just one real close victory away from making the playoffs. 5-5 on the year. They were on a roll to start things off, and that they kept on rolling. Unfortunately, again, I mentioned that controversial game, but that victory over Harden kept them in the playoff hunt, and they were able to stay there to the very end.
Yes, they were.
5-5 on the season, 1-5 in district, but in a district that size and the way it all panned out, one more win would have got them into the playoffs. They came in 6th in district at the end, have a state ranking of 826 from last season. They scored 236 points a game. 236 points for the season, 23.6 per game. They gave up 311 points for the season, or 31.1 per game. In district, they scored a little bit less at 18.4 points a game. And unfortunately, they gave up quite a bit more in district, 39.8 points per game in district contest. But they had a pretty good year, a very good start. They'll have a coach back in Toby Belt here for a second season. Again, I mentioned earlier, stability for Harden. This is the most stability Tarkington has seen in several years. And we'll talk more about another school that's had some more stability in their coaching situation after this. But for the Tarkington, it should be a big season on the Prairie. I know they're expecting a lot. They've got a great running back there. Jerry, I know, appreciates the fact they've got a pretty solid kicker. And but he loves his kickers. And anyway, but the Longhorns, Jerry, I think they've got some things to try to prove this year.
Yeah, I agree with Russell, and I do want to give a shout out to Brett, who is the kicker for Tarkington. He emailed me a few weeks ago. So, Brett, hey, brother, have a great season and keep that head down and drive through the football. That's the kicker coming out of me. Anyway, so yeah, Coach Belt, great guy. Toby, they have 15 returners, starters coming back. And boy, I sound like a broken record, I know, but very short on players. Tarkington is moving up to 4A and is probably going to carry 28 on the varsity.
Oh, and did we mention they're moving up to 4A? And, well, Liberty moved, and so did Harden Jefferson, and so did, I think, Bridge City. Oh, wait a minute. Guess where they're going?
So Tarkington, as Russell is trying to say, is Tarkington got the wrong end of that deal. Tarkington is in there in 9-4A D2 with Hampshire Finette, the Silsbee Tigers, the Jasper Bulldogs, and the West Orange Stark Mustangs. So
and the Shepherd Pirates.
And the Shepherd Pirates, who, if y'all remember, Shepherd went 2 rounds deep last year. Right. So Coach Belt is just, and Toby's not one that's going to sit there and dwell or whine on it. Said, hey, we're going to strap it up and we're going to play football. And that running back, Tarkington, we were talking about is Michael Galvan. Michael's going to be a senior, rushed for almost 1,000 yards last year. So Michael is going to be the key to their offense. Trace Edwards will step in at quarterback. And Jackson Stovall, who is a heck of a basketball player, is a very good wide receiver also. He'll play in the secondary also. So Tarkington's got some pieces, okay? But the district is just a tough district. So what you got to hope happens is, again, stay injury-free and then hopefully win a couple of those district games. And if you do win a couple of those district games, it can land you a playoff spot. Let's remember last year that Tarkington went over to Buna and could have secured a playoff spot. That also was a very controversial call that did not go the way of the Longhorns this time, and Buna grabbed that 4th playoff spot.
Well, they say things even out, but a tough way to even things out. And second-year head coach, and that makes a huge difference when you're going in, you have a full year under your belt, and your system's more familiar.
Oh, absolutely. Continuity is everything. Knowing the coaches, knowing his system, the do's. Something that a lot of people don't think is probably important, but knowing the do's and don'ts, okay? You don't have a lot of time when you're on the practice field, okay? So you gotta get your game plan, and it's gotta be pretty precise. So just things with coaching and that, having to run because you're not listening or whatever, all that is just thrown out the door with Coach Toby Belt. His guys understand what he's trying to do there. So when they get on the practice field, they get to work on the things they need to work on.
And we touched on it a little bit with Harden, but it's the same situation as Chad Taylor enters his second season at the helm, and that'll be a little more familiarity with those teams.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to say, Tarkington is going to need to play a little better on the defensive side of the football. Giving up 311, giving up 31.1 points. Because on the season, guys, 23.6 is not a bad offense. But you can't give up 31 points a game.
Yeah. That is the Tarkington Longhorns. They are the 5th team we have touched on in this Vindicator preview show. And we will now talk about the Cleveland Indians.
That's right, the Cleveland Indians. Somebody call Bob Uecker. Anyway, the Cleveland Indians are coming off a 0-10 season. They went winless last year. They were in their second year of Class 6A football. And let's face it, this is a school that 10 years ago was a Class 3A, right? Football program, somewhere in about that range. They've catapulted. They've grown fast, and they're trying to build that program there. 0-10 though, in a very tough district too. Let's make this very clear.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a very tough district, and I know. When they were realigning this year, there was a rumor they were going to go to an even tougher district. There was a North Shore rumor out there, and it was like, oh gosh, give them a break, right? They got a little bit of a break, but you still have the Woodlands.
13 6A is not much of a break.
No, it's not much of a break, but it might have been a break over that district.
Yeah.
But 0-8 in district play last year. They had secured a win 2 seasons ago over Caney Creek. They didn't get that one this year, so unfortunately for Coach Silva and company, it was a tough one. 9th place finish in the district. Their state ranking was 985th last season. Points scored last year, only 102 points scored on the entire season. That's 10.2 points per game. That's a long way away from what they gave up last year. Last season, they gave up 577 points per game for 57, or actually per the season for 57.7 points per game. In district play, they scored a little bit less, and they gave up a little bit more. They scored 9.7 per game in the district, and they gave up 63.5 points per game in district. It was a tough year for Cleveland. It's going to probably be another tough year this season, but I don't think Cleveland's ready to throw in the towel yet, as we talked about them having a coach that's got some stability now.
Jerry, tell us a little bit about their outlook this year.
Well, it starts with Coach Silva, as call him Coach Q. And let me tell you something, Coach Silva's in his 3rd year at Cleveland. Okay? They're in a 6A district with just a bunch of gauntlets in there, a bunch of tough teams. Okay? Coach Q is in his 3rd year. He isn't going anywhere. He is still at Cleveland. Okay? Coach Q is in it for the kids. Okay? He's not in it for anything else but for his kids. When you have someone at the top like that, eventually good things are going to happen. Cleveland does not really play. Cleveland plays for the small wins, and they kind of go by that philosophy. We're playing for the small wins, and eventually it's going to lead to the big wins. So the Indians, they open at Splendor, and then they come home and play a first-year varsity program, as we already talked about in Dayton's district, Westport. There is a chance that the Indians can start the season 2-0. And that would be the confidence for those kids that would be tremendous for Cleveland. Going into district play, they have a couple of studs. Dominique Gilkey is a heck of a football player, heck of a basketball player. Dominique will probably hardly come off the field. Okay? Great athlete. And he is in a junior, so he's got a couple of years. So he basically is going to lead the way for them. On their offensive line, Cleveland is not going to be bad. They bring back a couple of starters. Like I said, defensively, the Indians just need to try to get some stops on defense, have some things go their way. But if they can open, and I don't look into non-district games as big as it would be for like a team for like the Cleveland Indians going to be starting district in week 3. If they can start and get a couple of wins, hey, the confidence is there. Maybe they can beat Caney Creek in district and sneak up on another team. 4-6 or 5-5 for the Cleveland Indians would be a very great season.
That'd be a huge deal. That would be, I know Superintendent loves the Big Red C. That would be the Big Red C showing up and leaving their mark on the 2024 season. So I don't know about you guys, but we've got all 6 schools now, right? And now I guess we can throw a few predictions out there, I guess, on our little prognostication.
I'll let you guys handle the prediction business.
Okay. Well, here's what I can
I'll
predict.
ridicule you when you make it.
The first thing I'm going to predict is this. Ross Norwood will be the voice of the Liberty Panthers again this season. That's my first prediction. So far, so good.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, they haven't given him a pink slip yet. But anyway, what I can say,
Norwood, not very confident.
So, Jerry, at the moment, there's 3 teams I think that have a chance to make the playoffs. That have a chance.
Okay.
Not a guarantee. One I think makes the playoffs for sure. That's Holiday Zeta.
Okay.
I think Holiday Zeta
Agreed.
for sure. 2, I'm going to say this, and again, anybody that knows me and my purple, because we know I bleed it.
I knew that was coming.
I think Liberty may have a chance of making the playoffs. All right? How'd you like that? Okay?
I agree with that also.
And I guarantee you this, the purple and white are going to win their district. Guarantee you this.
Now that is a pretty bold statement,
It is,
Russell.
but
one you didn't make last year.
I did actually.
No, he did.
I did.
It's not the spin you think it's going to
Port
be.
Neches Groves is going to win that district. I do think Dayton has a chance to make the playoffs.
I agree with that too.
Then I would say Tarkington. Good luck to Tarkington. I would like if Tarkington can make the playoffs. We all need to go give Toby Bell a hug, and probably by mistake, right? Because that's you guys out there, you Longhorns. I'm all for you. I'm rooting for you. Play your hardest, right, and do your best, and give it. And hey, maybe you surprise us all. That's a tough district.
Yeah, that's. And let's not forget that is one of the toughest 4A districts in the state of Texas.
That's right. No, it's the toughest.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. I've watched it for 2 years when Liberty was in that district, and those programs, Jasper, Silsbee, and West Orange Stark, are very stout.
Hampshire Finette, they will put up video game numbers this year on offense.
And that was the other one I kept missing. Hampshire Finette, very good last year. Very disciplined last
They
year.
have a quarterback that threw for over 3,000 yards. They have a running back that rushed for over 1,000. They have 2 of their best receivers offensively. Hampshire Finette is loaded.
Now, I'm going to say this. Cleveland, I think, if it's possible, they can pull off some of these wins. They're not making the playoffs this year. And again, to you kids, you Indians out there, give it your all. Keep on growing. Keep on getting better so that you do when your time comes. But if they can get some wins this year, they'll make some significant improvement, right? And that's
I would love to see those Indians go 5-5.
It'd be great.
I'd love to see it.
That'd be fantastic, right? I do think there's a dark horse out there that maybe could make the playoffs. So I'm going to say there's a 4th team that maybe though could make. That district that Harden is in is down. Now, you do add Cold Spring, so that element got, but if you have East Chambers, I think those 2 are curved. But that district's been funny to me over the last several years, right?
Yeah.
It's not always who you think. Again, it's a dark horse thing, right? But I think that if they pull the right punches, if they compete this season like they competed last season, and they bought into this program with Chad Taylor, they could surprise us.
So Kirbyville lost a lot.
They did.
Cold Spring lost a lot.
They did.
Okay.
Anawak's better than they've ever been. Right?
Anahuac is loaded. East Chambers, they'll be a playoff team.
They're East Chambers.
Not the East Chambers probably of 5-6 years ago. Still a solid football team. But I'm telling you, Chad Taylor can get the football and take up a whole quarter with that running game. And then the other team's defense is just dragging. If he gets you in that, if he gets you in a Chad Taylor coached game, you could be in trouble.
You see what their defense has done, and you really limit the touches for their offense.
And their defense is only going to get better.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably our top defense in Liberty County. I think we all agree with that last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I say this, and some people laugh when I said this, and I say it again. One of the best losing teams I saw all season last year, and it was not a tongue-in-cheek thing. They competed. And I think if they bought into that again, year 2 in this program, right, and they caught on very quickly with that last year, and again, in the season before, if I tell you that Tarkington game, when it had been done, they'd have been done. That would put a fork in them. They were finished, right? Because they've had starts that were pretty good before. So, again, they're my four. At least less likely probably of the four I'm thinking. I think Dayzetta goes to the playoffs. I think Liberty has a chance at a playoff spot in this district. There's nobody in that district that just makes me go, wow, right, whatsoever. And if they're buying into Coach Kedrick Harrison and his program, which from all indications they are excited about this, and they are really excited about this, there's a chance. Dayton, there's obviously a chance for Dayton. You're going to have to make no mistake. Whatever it's been that's happened the last 2 years cannot happen.
Yeah, and Coach P is a proven winner. Let's not forget that.
That's his pedigree there.
What about your predictions?
So, I basically kind of was working with Russell on this, but I like the Bobcats. Okay, I like Cole Dayzetta grabbing one of those playoff spots. Dayton, tough district, but I think Dayton's got a chance to get third or fourth. Need to have some things go their way. Liberty, playing for Coach Ked. Those kids are just fired up and they're excited out there. And as I alluded to before, we just talked about how Anahuac is very loaded. Well, Liberty went to Anahuac a couple of weeks ago and put it to them. Yes, it was a scrimmage, but they still put it to them. The Harden Hornets, I've always been a Chad Taylor fan. I always will be. When Chad just ball control and just chews up the clock, Chad Taylor can be in any game he wants to if that running game is getting 4 or 5 yards a play. So Cleveland, I want those kids to just have a good season. And kudos to Coach Q for being so positive and staying out there with Cleveland. He's got some great kids, though. I talked to 3 of them, all great kids. Those kids, their heads weren't down. They had their heads up. So Coach Q will have those kids. They will play. That's another team. They're going to play till there's zeros on that scoreboard in the fourth quarter. And then Tarkington. If Tarkington can get out to a good start in non-district, and yes, they were in a tough district, but besides Hampshire Finette, who was loaded, Silsby lost a bunch. Okay? West Orange Stark lost a bunch. Jasper lost a few. Jasper will still be good.
They got a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah. Shepherd went 2 rounds deep. They still have a rusher that ran for nearly 2,000 yards. So Shepherd's going to be good, but, that's why they play the game.
That's right.
Final thoughts, Jerry?
I think it's going to be an exciting season for us in Liberty County. I know the last couple of years have been tough for a lot of our fans, but with Cole Dayzetta, them being in their 100th year of existence, okay, Bobcat Stadium is a pretty special place. I think we'll all agree on that. Coach Liberty, Coach Ked, there. Excitement. Dayton, Coach P, more excitement. Tarkington, Toby in his second year with these kids under his system. He's got a running back that can run the football. Who have I left out? And going back to the Bobcats, they've got athletes, and I think the Bobcats will grab one of those spots in the playoffs. Harden with Taylor in Cleveland is going to be fun to watch this year because I honestly believe Cleveland's going to win more football games.
Thank you, Jerry. Russell, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's 2024. Football season is here. That intro to this show, I think, got me a little excited with Friday Night Lights, explosions in the sky. I know, we love what we do here. We're excited to be able to do this here. We've done this for many years. All 3 of us have been involved one way or another with sports coverage. I want to point out something to all you folks. I don't know if you know this or not. We're actually a part of a crew that did some pretty good sports coverage this last year. Real proud of that. Real proud of these guys. And we hope to continue to do that, to cover all 6 schools. And we are rooting for all 6 schools. We're always going to be rooting for these kids. I will tell you this. We're looking forward to bringing you the Friday night wrap-up show every week after the game. In fact, this week coming up, we will be at Bronco Stadium, the Highway 90 battle. the Broncos and the Crosby Cougars. It'll be a fun time. It's always fun for me to be back at Broncos Stadium. I have a lot of good memories and a lot of ties to that place. And we're looking forward to being there. Myself, Jerry, our new Ace Scoop reporter Amber Johnson will be there with us. We'll all be there broadcasting live. She may stay on the other side of the camera, I'm thinking, but she'll be there. She's probably prettier than we are, and she'll probably be on this side. We should probably be on the other side.
Yeah.
But I don't think she knows as much about football as we do. But but we're looking forward to that. And again, folks, subscribe to the Vindicator today. You can call 936-336-3611, or you can go to thevindicator.com and subscribe. We'd love to have you. Folks, this is what we do. This is what we love to do. And we're bringing a great product here. And hopefully we're going to continue to bring a great product here. And we hope to bring you more things. Folks that are familiar with the Plays of the Week we did last year during basketball, soccer, and baseball, softball seasons, we're going to be doing some versions of those this year as well, with football and volleyball, maybe cross country. But we'll be out there. We'll be around. And we have some great folks out there, some great photographers and great reporters that'll be out there covering Dayton, Liberty, Tarkington, Harden, Cleveland, Holden Zeta. And again, happy 100th anniversary of the Holden Zeta Bobcats. And
Well, you have great reporters covering these schools except for Liberty.
Oh, he's all right.
That is going to do it for this year's Liberty County Football Preview. I want to thank you for joining us. For Jerry Mahosky, Russell Payne, I'm Ross Norwood. We'll see you during the season.